Hello again, this is Alex with another weekly image review session. A smaller selection this week as I've not had so much time for processing, being busy with UPY admin and other bits and pieces through the week. So yeah, I think there's only a handful of images this week, but I thought I'd still record a session. So right, kicking off, the pictures are again from Cayman and Raja Ampat. Actually, there's only one from Cayman, and most of the rest are from Raja Ampat. You can see there's only 14 images. There's not a lot to look at today, and some of the Raja Ampat ones are from previous trips, because I've wanted to process them for various reasons this week. So let's kick off with this dog snapper in the Cayman Islands. Just a standard fish portrait. Nothing over here, but over the top here. But I did notice this time visiting the Cayman Islands this year in January, there were a lot of these dog snappers around. I do think they probably spawn around this time of year, and you probably see them gathered a little bit more commonly in numbers. They're big butch predators, big teeth, big long sort of canine-like fangs. I guess it's probably where they maybe get their name from. They're obviously not canine teeth; they're just that sort of conical shape. And they have this sort of teardrop coming down from their eye, this sort of, or tear-like streak, a bit like a cheetah, I guess, running down their face from their eye. But this is dog snapper, just a standard sort of portrait there, shot with a 90mm on the Sony A7R5, and just a nice easy shot, just a nice portrait there. I like the reef background in this one. I think it would have been easy to shoot this one against pure blue water, and I definitely wanted a blue background, but I think the texture that just comes through from the reef in the background here actually is more interesting than just solid blue. This is a sponge shrimp from Raja Ampat. Cool little shrimps that live in the some of the sponges there, and particularly on night dives, they quite often come out like this, and you can see them peeking out the end. And they don't usually hang around for lots of frames, but I like this composition with it on this kind of jaunty angle, with the circle off to the side. I think I guess you could have shot this as a vertical with it at the bottom, and the circle above it. But I think then all the interest would have been right down the bottom of the frame, and I think it's probably worked better on this sort of slightly more fun angle, really. It's showing that this shrimp moves all around the circle of the tube sponge. Another sponge shot, this time with a many host goby, or a common ghost goby, on this encrusting sponge. A common encrusting sponge, this across Southeast Asia. You see this sponge everywhere. Usually it's rarely very clean. This is a reasonably clean section. Obviously the sponges suck water in through their body and then out through the siphons that you can see, a siphon here and other siphons here and here. And as a result, sponges are usually pretty dirty. And obviously when they've got a fish on them, you can't even waft a bit of water across them to clean them up a bit. So this is a nice clean area. It's kind of a strong pattern. I'm not overly thrilled by the position of the fish in this one. I think it's not badly positioned, but I think it could have been more interestingly positioned. But I suspect that this composition, I was limited really on where there was a nice, clean, even pattern in the sponge. And this was kind of probably the best you can do. You don't normally have sort of meters of this sponge. You usually have small patches of it, and what you're trying to do is at least find a bit where you can completely fill the frame with it. It's shot with the aperture closed right down. This case at f32. To make sure it's as sharp as possible and have as much depth of field as I can through the picture, shot with the 105mm lens. A flatworm inside one of the giant green mole sea squirts. Just sort of I just kind of like this. I like the color palette of this picture, the greens and the whites. They're not common colors really underwater, strong greens and also to some extent strong whites, and so they're nice to work into a composition like this. I think particularly when they're tiled, actually, if I go back and look at them as across the screen like this, you can actually, I think that you really see those nice colors. Another 105 picture taken with a close-up lens, probably an SMC in that case. This one here is a sap-sucking slug, a Alicia, I guess. Not quite sure of the species of this. And there's a lot of undescribed species of this in my sea slugs book, so I suspect it's one of the undescribed species of sea slug. But yeah, just sort of a standard shot of one. I just thought, it was. I think I processed this one because I saw it when scrolling through looking for something else, and I thought, oh, that will take me all of about 3 seconds to process out. So I might as well add it to the collection. You can see his eye spot there in the picture. Right. Here we have, these are now back to recent images. These are jacks hunting the silver sides alongside the reef, and the silver sides scattering as next to this reef wall covered in the Sargophytum sinularia, the leather corals, which is, it's kind of a nice sort of just shallow scene. Not compositionally all that interesting. It's kind of just this kind of square composition with the diagonal through it. But I like the energy and the movement of the fish. You can really see where the hunters are and the way the silver sides are scattering. This blenny sitting on this royal sea squirt. I think that's the best name for these golden or purpley sea squirts that are very, very common. This is quite a dark individual one, which is quite nice. And this little blenny was just perched on top of it, and I thought, oh, that will make a good picture. And 9 times out of 10, as you try and sneak up on them, the little blenny is away before you get a chance to press the shutter. But on this occasion, I was able to get into position and get the shot. Having decided that I, on the way in, actually, as I spotted this, I thought, right, this will be a nice photo. But obviously, given the scene in front of me, it's going to be really hard to get this all in focus. So I remember when shooting this, what I did was I switched the camera over when I first spotted it to back button focus so that I could focus once on this blenny and then recompose to get this sea squirt filling the frame. And then I think I only got 1 or 2 shots of this, so I just made quite a call on the aperture, and we can see what I shot it on, f7.1, and I think I just made that decision on aperture really just to be sure that I would sort of get some separation, because it was quite a busy area of reef, and I thought better to have not quite enough depth of field than too much depth of field, and I think it was probably quite a good decision. I could have probably shut the aperture a couple more clicks than this, but I just don't think I had the opportunity before this little blenny was away. But nice situation. A magenta dotty back. This was actually taken on the same dive as the one I showed the other week, where it was surrounded in the orange, that little hole in the reef surrounded by orange sponge. This one was just against the normal reef wall, which is kind of this where that browny, beigey background comes from. And it's obviously not a great background, but it was a really nice pose, and the focus was absolutely bang on this one. If I zoom in, you can see it's 200%, but you can see that it's, really nice and sharp on the eyes, really sort of impactful from this little fish. I don't think it's an amazing picture, but I like these little fish, and they do capture Raja Ampat for me. A split level image here, taken of Missoul Resort, out on the north side of the island, looking back at the resort from the edge of the drop off there. I think the reefs of Batbatim Island were quite damaged by the old shark finning station that was there. They probably did quite a lot of dynamite fishing, probably just to catch food for themselves. And so you have these kind of sloping, rubbly reefs that have, in the 15 years or so that the resort's been set up, have been recolonized quite well by coral. But they're kind of quite strange environments, because they are kind of can be very dominated by single species. There isn't really a stable seabed, so you often have patches of staghorny acroporas like this, and then they'll just break down into rubble slopes where clearly it was bombed in the past, and the sediment isn't stable enough for coral to grow there again. I don't really know what the resort has put down some frames and things to hopefully help provide some anchoring points for corals to grow. Again, there is incredible coral growth around the island, don't get me wrong, and the coral grows there so fast. It's just, it shows the long-lasting impact of the dynamite fishing. You don't see any in this picture, but it just reminds me of it on the island. Right, so just the last couple to go. Last few. This one here, kind of, I think compositionally this picture's a little bit of a mess, but I like these Raja Ampat shots where there's just a lot going on, and it kind of captures the chaos and the energy of the reefs there. And there's a big swirl of these glassfish or cardinal fish. They look like red fin cardinal fish. Let's have a look at them. Oh, I'm not sure now. No, I don't think they are. That one is, but I'm not sure all of them are. Over these Melithea and Anella sea fans. Just a nice little bommy. This was at Gorgonian Passage, one of the bommies. We drifted this from south to north on this dive. So this is one of the bommies that you do early on a south to north drift, or late on a north to south drift. Just had really nice glassfish on it. Small little bommy. Not much background in this area because it was just really the bommy, but I tried to get a bit of silhouetted reef behind this front row of sea fans and cardinal fish in the shot. This is from the same dive. This looks like Gorgonian Passage. A really big Melithea sea fan. They don't always grow that big, and this one's just got layer upon layer upon layer. So quite interesting for this to see this species sort of, it's almost a bush of it. And also quite a big expansive area, and just sort of a very standard shot with a bit of blue water and a few sunbeams just on the edge of the island. Anyone who's dived this site will recognize this area when you're sort of underneath that great big wall of limestone, and then the undercut, and then the wall drops down below and it's full of these sea fans. This image here is also probably very recognizable to anyone who knows the diving in this area. This is taken at Boo West in one of the cuts between the in the top of the reef there where the current whizzes through, and there's a big boulder up in about 5 meters of water. It's very shallow. It's probably shallower than that actually, and it's covered in soft coral. It's not a very well positioned boulder for photography, but it's just the whole boulder is covered in soft coral like this, and so everyone always photographs it. And you always play around with different angles trying to make it work in different ways. And this idea was to shoot it here with the Snell's window and the sunbeams. And it's not, I think this shot would be great if you could get a snorkeler in the background. I think that would really complete the image, but I think otherwise it's a little bit empty, the shot, but it's just such an explosion of colour that I really wanted to process this one out. Oh, I've opened this in Photoshop. Don't really need to do that. Just close it back down again. And here we go. These are obviously black corals and more silver sides being hunted by jacks. This is at Layer Cake or Wedding Cake, the dive site in near to Gorgonian Passage, and I forgot the name of the island. Oh gosh, right on the tip of my tongue. It'll probably say in the caption, but I'm not going to bother looking it up. But you know the dive site in southern Missoul, in that area, and just full of action and energy with the jacks and the silver sides spraying over the top. It was quite murky on this dive. You can see there's a bit of backscatter. I've not bothered to clean most of it up. I just sort of left it in the water. It's kind of quite typical of Raja Ampat to have this kind of dark water with bits in, so I felt that was fine. I like though the contrast between the orange corals, the blue water, and then the silver fish being sort of scattered across the top of them. It was kind of very much a grab shot with all the action going on, but I think the shot's quite effective. And then the final shot is this school of parrotfish that were roving over the reef. I processed this picture because it was just for the interesting behaviours that the parrotfish gang together like this in order to be able to feed in the best algae growing conditions, which are usually controlled by territorial herbivores. And the two stripy fish in the foreground, the pajama surgeonfish, are very classic shallow water gardening species that have their protective patches, and they defend them against other herbivores like the parrotfish. But the parrotfish overcome the defences of the surgeonfish by ganging together in such large numbers and then descending en masse, and the surgeonfish attack them but can't scare them away, and that's what's going on here. I don't think it's a particularly wonderful image, but it at least allows me to tell that story when I want to. So that's just the handful of images I've processed this week. Nothing particularly spectacular. I do like some of those hunting shots and some behaviour shots. Some nice sort of do a bit of wide angle, but hopefully next week I'll be back with a little bit more to share. Thanks for watching, and speak to you again soon.